The family of the Chronidae accordingly embraces the 12 great gods of Olympus: Zeus, the head of them all; Poseidon, Apollo, Ares, Hermes, Hephaestus, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Athena, Aphrodite, and Artemis. These 12 Olympian gods, who in some places were worshipped as a body, as at Athens, were recognized not only by the Greeks, but were adopted also by the Romans. The greatest of the Olympian gods, and the father of gods and men, was a son of Cronos and Rhea, a brother of Poseidon, Hades, Pluto, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, to whom he was married. When Zeus and his brothers distributed among themselves the government of the world by lot, Poseidon obtained the sea, Hades the lower world, and Zeus the heavens and the upper regions. But the earth became common to all. He is armed with thunder and lightning, and the shaking of his aegis produces storm and tempest. A number of epithets of Zeus in the Homeric poems describe him as the thunderer, the gatherer of clouds, and the like. He was married to Hera. Hera sometimes acts as an independent divinity. She is ambitious and rebels against her lord, but she is nevertheless inferior to him, and is punished for her opposition, and the god appears as a political and national divinity, as the king and father of men, as the founder and protector of all institutions hallowed by law, custom, or religion. The Romans, who, in particular, identified their Jupiter with the Greek Zeus, eagle, the oak, and the summits of mountains, were sacred to him, and his sacrifices generally consisted of goats, bulls, and cows. His usual attributes are the scepter, eagle, thunderbolt, and a figure of victory in his hand.
Hera was, according to some accounts, the eldest daughter of Cronos and Rhea, and a sister of Zeus. Apollodorus, however, calls Hestia the eldest daughter of Cronos, and Lactantius calls her a twin sister of Zeus. Being a daughter of Cronos, she, like his other children, was swallowed by her father, but afterwards released. She became the wife of Zeus, without the knowledge of her parents. This marriage acts a prominent part in the worship of Hera. After the marriage with Zeus, she was treated by the Olympian gods with the same reverence as her husband. Hera also thinks herself justified in censoring Zeus when he consults others without her knowing it. But she is, notwithstanding, far inferior to him in power. She must obey him unconditionally, and like the other gods, she is chastised by him when she has offended him. Hera, therefore, is not like Zeus, the queen of gods and men, but simply the wife of the supreme god. Her character, as described by Homer, is not of a very amiable kind, and its main features are jealousy, obstinacy, and a quarreling disposition which sometimes makes her own husband tremble. Hence there arise frequent disputes between Hera and Zeus. Some regarded her as the personification of the atmosphere, others as the queen of heaven, or the goddess of the stars, or as the goddess of the moon. According to modern views, Hera is the great goddess of nature, who was everywhere worshipped from the earliest times. The Romans identified their goddess Juno with the Greek Hera.
The god of the Mediterranean Sea, he was a son of Cronos and Rhea. He was accordingly a brother of Zeus, Hades, Hera, Hestia, and Demeter, and it was determined by lot that he should rule over the sea. In the earliest poems, Poseidon is described as indeed equal to Zeus in dignity, but weaker. Hence we find him angry when Zeus, by haughty words, attempts to intimidate him. But, on the other hand, we also find him yielding and submissive to Zeus. As the sea surrounds and holds the earth, he himself is described as the god who holds the earth, and who has it in his power to shake the earth. He was further regarded as the creator of the horse, and was accordingly believed to have taught men the art of managing horses by the bridle, and to have been the originator and protector of horse races. The common tradition about Poseidon creating the horse is as follows. When Poseidon and Athena disputed as to which of them should give the name to the capital of Attica, the gods decided that it should receive its name from him who should bestow upon man the most useful gift. Poseidon then created the horse, and Athena called forth the olive tree, for which the honor was conferred upon her. The sacrifices offered to him generally consisted of black and white bulls, but wild boars and rams were also sacrificed to him. In works of art, Poseidon may be easily recognized by his attributes: the dolphin, the horse, or the trident. It must be observed that the Romans identified Poseidon with their own Neptunus.
One of the great Olympian divinities was, according to the popular and poetical notions of the Greeks, the goddess of love and beauty. Some traditions stated that she had sprung from the foam of the sea, and her surpassing beauty made everyone desire to have her for his wife. Aphrodite was married to Hephaestus. Her faithlessness to Hephaestus in her amour with Ares, and the manner in which she was caught by the ingenuity of her husband, are beautifully described in the Odyssey. But Ares was not the only god whom Aphrodite favored. Dionysus, Hermes, and Poseidon likewise enjoyed her charms. She was the personification of the generative powers of nature, and the mother of all living beings. When she was represented as the victorious goddess, she had the attributes of Ares: a helmet, a shield, a sword or a lance, and an image of victory in one hand. The planet Venus in the spring month of April were likewise sacred to her. The sacrifices offered to her consisted mostly of incense and garlands of flowers, but in some places animals such as pigs, goats, young cows, hares, and others were sacrificed to her. In some places, as at Corinth, great numbers of females belonged to her, who prostituted themselves in her service. The arrow is also sometimes mentioned as one of her attributes. In the vegetable kingdom, the myrtle, rose, apple, poppy, and others were sacred to her. The animals sacred to her, which are often mentioned as drawing her chariot or serving as her messengers, are the sparrow, the dove, the swan, the swallow, and a bird called iynx.
Pull over the car or...
The god of fire was, according to the Homeric account, the son of Zeus and Hera. Later traditions state that he had no father, and that Hera gave birth to him independent of Zeus, as she was jealous of Zeus having given birth to Athena independent of her. Hephaestus is the god of fire, especially in so far as it manifests itself in a power of physical nature in volcanic districts, and in so far as it is the indispensable means in arts and manufactures, whence fire is called the breath of Hephaestus. And the name of the god is used by both Greek and Roman poets as synonymous with fire. He was ugly and slow, and owing to the weakness of his legs, he was held up when he walked by artificial supports skillfully made of gold. His neck and chest, however, were strong and muscular. In Olympus, Hephaestus had his own palace, imperishable and shining like stars. It contained his workshop with the anvil and 20 bellows which worked spontaneously at his bidding. It was there that he made all his beautiful and marvelous works, utensils, and arms, both for gods and men. In later accounts, his workshop is no longer represented as in Olympus, but in the interior of some volcanic isle. The wife of Hephaestus also lived in his palace. In the Odyssey, she is named Aphrodite. He gave skill to mortal artists, and he was believed to have taught men the arts which embellish and adorn life. But he was nevertheless conceived as far inferior to the sublime character of Athena. The Romans, when speaking of the Greek Hephaestus, call him Vulcanus. The god of war, and one of the great Olympian gods of the Greeks, he is represented as the son of Zeus and Hera. A later tradition, according to which Hera conceived Ares by touching a certain flower, appears to be an imitation of the legend about the birth of Hephaestus, and is related by Ovid. The character of Ares in Greek mythology will be best understood if we compare it with that of other divinities who are likewise in some way connected with war. Athena represents thoughtfulness and wisdom in the affairs of war, and protects men in their habitations during its ravages. Ares, on the other hand, is nothing but the personification of bold force and strength, and not so much the god of war as of its tumult, confusion, and horrors. His sister Eris calls forth war. Zeus directs its course, but Ares loves war for its own sake, and delights in the din and roar of battles, in the slaughter of men, and the destruction of towns, was even believed to be active in the ravages made by plagues and epidemics. This savage and sanguinary character of Ares makes him hated by the other gods and his own parents. There are few Greek monuments now extant with representations of the god. He appears principally on coins, reliefs, and gems. The Romans identified their god Mars with the Greek Ares.
One of the great divinities of the Greeks, Homer calls her a daughter of Zeus, without any allusion to her mother or to the manner in which she was called into existence, while most of the later traditions agree in stating that she was born from the head of Zeus. According to Hesiod, Metis, the first wife of Zeus, was the mother of Athena, but when Metis was pregnant with her, Zeus, on the advice of Gaia and Uranus, swallowed Metis up and afterwards gave birth himself to Athena, who sprang from his head. She was the daughter of Zeus, and if we take Metis to have been her mother, we have at once the clue to the character which she bears in the religion of Greece. For as her father was the most powerful and her mother the wisest among the gods, so Athena was a combination of the two. That is, a goddess in which power and wisdom. The character of Athena, as we have here traced it, holds a middle place between the male and female, and hence she is a virgin divinity, whose heart is inaccessible to the passion of love, and who shuns matrimonial connection. Here the serpent, the symbol of perpetual renovation, was sacred to her. At Lindus in Rhodes, her worship was likewise very ancient. Among the things sacred to her we may mention the owl, serpent, cock, and olive tree, which she was said to have created in her contest with Poseidon about the possession of Attica. Athena and Hephaestus were the great patrons both of the useful and elegant arts. Later writers make her the goddess of all wisdom, knowledge, and art, and represent her as sitting on the right-hand side of her father Zeus, and supporting him with her counsel. One of the great divinities of the Greeks. The name Demeter is supposed by some to be the same as the word Mother Earth, while others consider Deo, which is synonymous with Demeter, as derived from the Cretan word for barley, so that Demeter would be the mother or giver of barley, or of food generally. Demeter was the daughter of Cronus and Rhea, and sister of Hestia, Hera, Ides, Poseidon, and Zeus. Like the other children of Cronus, she was devoured by her father, but he gave her forth again after taking the emetic, which Metis had given him. By her brother Zeus, Demeter became the mother of Persephone and Dionysus, and by Poseidon of Despina and the horse Arion. The most prominent part in the mythos of Demeter is the rape of her daughter Persephone by Pluto, and this story not only suggests the main idea embodied in Demeter, but also directs our attention to the principal seats of her worship. Demeter was the goddess of the earth, and more especially of the earth as producing fruit, and consequently of agriculture, whence human food or bread is called by Homer the gift of Demeter. The notion of her being the author of the earth's fertility was extended to that of fertility in general, and she accordingly was looked upon also as the goddess of marriage, and was worshipped especially by women. Demeter is represented also as the friend of peace, and as a law-giving goddess. The sacrifices offered to her consisted of pigs, the symbol of fertility, bulls, cows, honey cakes, and fruits. The Romans received the worship of Demeter, to whom they applied the name of Ceres from Sicily. The goddess of the hearth, or rather the fire burning on the hearth, was regarded as one of the 12 great gods, and accordingly as a daughter of Cronus and Rhea. According to the common tradition, she was the first-born daughter of Rhea, and was therefore the first of the children that was swallowed by Cronus. She was, like Artemis and Athena, a maiden divinity, and when Apollo and Poseidon sued for her hand, she swore by the head of Zeus to remain a virgin forever. As the hearth was looked upon as the sacred center of domestic life, so Hestia was the goddess of domestic life, and the giver of all domestic happiness and blessings. And as the goddess of the sacred fire of the altar, she had a share in the sacrifices in all the temples of the gods. Hence, when sacrifices were offered, she was invoked first, and the first part of the sacrifice was offered to her. Her sacrifices consisted of the primite of fruit, water, oil, wine, and cows of 1 year old. The Romans worshipped the same goddess, or rather the same ideas embodied in her, under the name of Vesta, which is in reality identical with Hestia.
A son of Zeus and Maia, the daughter of Atlas, he was born in a cave of Mount Selene in Arcadia. The tradition is not mentioned, though Hermes is characterized as a cunning thief. The principal feature in the traditions about Hermes consists in his being the herald of the gods. As the herald of the gods, he is the god of skill in the use of speech, and of eloquence in general. For the heralds are the public speakers in the assemblies and on other occasions. As an adroit speaker, he was especially employed as a messenger, when eloquence was required to attain the desired object. Hence the tongues of sacrificial animals were offered to him. As heralds and messengers are usually men of prudence and circumspection, Hermes was also the god of prudence and skill in all the relations of social intercourse. These qualities were combined with similar ones, such as cunning in both words and actions, and even fraud, perjury, and the inclination to steal. But acts of this kind were committed by Hermes always with a certain skill and even gracefulness. And besides the lyre and syrinx, he is said to have invented the alphabet, numbers, astronomy, music, the art of fighting, gymnastics, the cultivation of the olive tree, measures, weights, and many other things. As dreams are sent by Zeus, Hermes conducts them to man, and hence he is also described as the god who had it in his power to send refreshing sleep, or to take it away. Another important function of Hermes was to conduct the shades of the dead from the upper into the lower world. The idea of his being the herald and messenger of the gods, of his traveling from place to place and concluding treaties, necessarily implied the notion that he was the promoter of social intercourse and of commerce among men, and that he was friendly towards man. In this capacity he was regarded as the maintainer of peace, and as the god of roads who protected travelers and punished those who refused to assist travelers who had mistaken their way. Hermes was considered as the inventor of sacrifices, and hence he not only acts the part of a herald at sacrifices, but is also the protector of sacrificial animals. The Romans identified him with Mercury. Among the things sacred to him we may mention the palm tree, the tortoise, the number 4, and several kinds of fish. And the sacrifices offered to him consisted of incense, honey, cakes, pigs, and especially lambs and young goats. The principal attributes of Hermes are 1. A traveling hat, with a broad brim which in later times was adorned with 2 little wings. The latter, however, are sometimes seen arising from his locks, his head not being covered with the hat. 2. The staff. It is frequently mentioned in the Homeric poems as the magic staff by means of which he closes and opens the eyes of mortals. Hades, or Pluton, is the god of the lower world. Plato observes that people preferred calling him Pluton, the giver of wealth, to pronouncing the dreaded name of Hades. Hades is a son of Cronos and Rhea, and a brother of Zeus and Poseidon. He was married to Persephone, the daughter of Demeter. In the division of the world among the 3 brothers, Hades obtained the darkness of night, the abode of the shades over which he rules. Hence he is called the infernal Zeus, or the king of the shades. As, however, the earth and Olympus belonged to the 3 brothers in common, he might ascend Olympus, but when Hades was in his own kingdom, he was quite unaware of what was going on either on earth or in Olympus, and it was only the oaths and curses of men that reached his ears. He possessed a helmet which rendered the wearer invisible, and later traditions stated that this helmet was given him as a present by the Cyclops after their delivery from Tartarus. His character is described as fierce and inexorable, whence all of the gods he was most hated by mortals, and the sacrifices which were offered to him and Persephone contained of black male and female sheep. The ensign of his power was a staff, with which, like Hermes, he drove the shades into the lower world, where he had his palace and shared his throne with his consort Persephone. Like the other gods, he was not a faithful husband. The Furies are called his daughters. Being king of the lower world, Pluton is the giver of all the blessings that come from the earth. He is the possessor and giver of all the metals contained in the earth, and hence his name, Pluton. His ordinary attributes are the key of Hades and Cerberus. Apollo's sister was Artemis. But the opinion most universally received was that Apollo, the son of Zeus and Leto, was born in the island of Delos, together with his sister Artemis. The powers ascribed to Apollo are apparently of different kinds, but all are connected with one another, and may be said to be only ramifications of one and the same, as will be seen from the following classification. 1. Apollo is the god who punishes and destroys the wicked and overbearing. 2. The god who affords help and wards off evil. 3. The god of prophecy. 4. The god of song and music. 5. The god who protects the flocks and cattle. 6. the god who delights in the foundation of towns and the establishment of civil constitutions. These characteristics of Apollo necessarily appear in a peculiar light if we adopt the view which was almost universal among the later poets, mythographers, and philosophers, and according to which Apollo was identical with Helios, or the sun.
The youthful, beautiful, but effeminate god of wine. He is also called both by Greeks and Romans Bacchus, that is, the noisy or riotous god, which was originally a mere epithet or surname of Dionysus, whereas others describe him as a son of Zeus by Demeter, Io, Dione, or Arge. Dionysus is there simply described as the god who teaches man the preparation of wine, whence he is called the drunken god, and the sober king Lycurgus will not for this reason tolerate him in his kingdom. He appears in all traditions as the representative of some power of nature, whereas Apollo is mainly an ethical deity. Dionysus is the productive, overflowing, and intoxicating power of nature, which carries man away from his usual quiet and sober mode of living. Wine is the most natural and appropriate symbol of that power, and it is therefore called the fruit of Dionysus. Dionysus is therefore the god of wine, the inventor and teacher of its cultivation, the giver of joy and the disperser of grief and sorrow. As the god of wine, he is also both an inspired and an inspiring god. That is, the god who has the power of revealing the future to man by oracles. The notion of his being the cultivator and protector of the vine was easily extended to that of his being the protector of trees in general, which, among the sacrifices which were offered to him in the earliest times, human sacrifices are also mentioned. Subsequently, however, this barbarous custom was softened down into a symbolic scourging, or animals were substituted for men, as at Potnier. The animal most commonly sacrificed to Dionysus was a ram. Among the things sacred to him, we may notice the vine, ivy, laurel, and asphodel, the dolphin, serpent, tiger, lynx, panther, and ass, but he hated the sight of an owl. Among the immortals, she is called the stag killer, and the lover of the tumult connected with the chase. Artemis is moreover like Apollo, unmarried. She is a maiden divinity never conquered by love. The Romans identified their goddess Diana with the Greek Artemis. Her attributes are the bow, quiver, and arrows, or a spear, stags, and dogs.
I want your bite, wanna feel your teeth on my neck, wanna taste the salt of your sweat, gonna rock your body all night, it's lust and fun. The way you're making me hot, don't stop, you're hitting the spot, gonna rock your body all night, it's lust and fun. Wanna feel your teeth on my neck, wanna taste the salt of your sweat, gonna rock your body all night, it's lust and fun. Gonna rock your body all night, it's lust and fun.
The youthful, beautiful, but effeminate god of wine. He is also called both by Greeks and Romans Bacchus, that is, the noisy or riotous god, son of Zeus by Demeter, Io, Dione, or Arge. Various mythological beings are described as the offspring of Dionysus, but among the women, both mortal and immortal, who won his love, none is more famous in ancient history than Ariadne. Dionysus is there simply described as the god who teaches man the preparation of wine, whence he is called the drunken god, and the sober king Lycurgus will not for this reason tolerate him in his kingdom. He appears in all traditions as the representative of some power of nature, whereas Apollo is mainly an ethical deity. Dionysus is the productive, overflowing, and intoxicating power of nature, which carries man away from his usual quiet and sober mode of living. Wine is the most natural and appropriate symbol of that power, and it is therefore called the fruit of Dionysus. Dionysus is therefore the god of wine, the inventor and teacher of its cultivation, the giver of joy and the disperser of grief and sorrow. As the god of wine, he is also both an inspired and an inspiring god. That is, the god who has the power of revealing the future to man by oracles. The notion of his being the cultivator and protector of the vine was easily extended to that of his being the protector of trees in general. This character is still further developed in the notion of his being the promoter of civilization, a lawgiver, and a lover of peace. Among the sacrifices which were offered to him in the earliest times, human sacrifices are also mentioned. Subsequently, however, this barbarous custom was softened down into a symbolic scourging, or animals were substituted for men, as at Potnier. The animal most commonly sacrificed to Dionysus was a ram. Among the things sacred to him, we may notice the vine, ivy, laurel, and asphodel, the dolphin, serpent, tiger, lynx, panther, and ass, but he hated the sight of an owl.
The Iris is the goddess of the rainbow and a goddess of sea and sky. She can create rainbows as a bridge between the heavens and earth. Her rainbows make a passage from the earth to heaven. Iris is also the goddess of messages and communications. She delivers messages for the gods and the mortals. Because of this, she could not always deliver messages in her goddess form, so she takes on the form of someone the human knows. Iris always gets the job done and can move with the speed of the wind. Some say whenever you see a rainbow, it is Iris making her way between the worlds, delivering messages. Iris is one of the few Olympians who is able to travel to the underworld. By command of Zeus, king of gods, Iris also carries the pitcher of water from the river Styx, located in the underworld, whenever the gods had to take a solemn oath, or if the gods were to lie or argue. The water would render unconscious for 1 year any god or goddess who lied when taking the oath. In some myths, immortality would also. So Iris is described to be a beautiful young woman. She wears splendid dresses with bewitching colors, and is often shown holding a hail staff and water pitcher with gold wings attached to her shoulders and sandals on her feet.
Nemesis was the Greek goddess of revenge and divine retribution. She was the daughter of Nyx, the goddess of night, and Erebus, the god of darkness. Her parents were solely created from chaos, the formless state preceding the creation of the universe. They were two of the first 5 beings to come into existence. This makes Nemesis one of the oldest figures in Greek mythology. Nemesis measured the happiness and unhappiness each person was to receive in their lifetime. She cursed those who received undeserved fortune and bestowed kindness upon those who suffered great tragedies for no reason. She was also responsible for punishing the mortals who offended the gods with their displays of pride and arrogance. Nemesis had the power to change the fate and death of mortals. She also possessed immortality and the ability to fly. She is often symbolized by a pair of scales. Nemesis was feared, respected, and worshipped by humans on Earth. She was especially loved by warriors, as she could protect the deserving from their deaths. A festival was held each year in her honor to console angry spirits. The festival was used to bring peace between the living and the dead. The idea was that the festival would prevent the spirits from taking out their frustrations on the living. Nemesis was usually portrayed as a virgin goddess in Greek mythology. However, according to one legend, she became the mother of Helen of Troy when Zeus mated with her while they were both in the form of waterfowl. Nemesis is perhaps best known for her role in the story of Narcissus. According to legend, Narcissus was a vain and arrogant hunter who disdained the ones who loved him. Nemesis punished Narcissus for his vanity by luring him to a pool in which he could see his reflection. He fell in love with himself when he caught sight of his image and was unable to leave the pool ever again. Nemesis had no weaknesses and was considered neither good nor evil.
Graces were Agila for splendor, Euphrosyne for festivity, and Thyala for rejoicing. The Graces were the beautiful daughters of Zeus and Eurynome. The Graces presided over festivals, dances, banquets, and all other enjoyable social events. They brought joy and goodwill to both gods and mortals. They were very favorable among everyone. They were attended to the divinities of love, Eros and Aphrodite. They sang to the gods on Mount Olympus. Some legends say Agila was married to Hephaestus. The Graces were never treated as individuals but as a whole or a group. However, they represented a kind of triple embodiment of grace and beauty. The Muses were the Greek goddesses who were in charge of the arts and sciences. They inspired all artists, in particularly poets, philosophers, and musicians. They were a group of 9 very intelligent, beautiful, and careless divinities. They were the daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, goddess of memory. They were brought to disremember the evil and relieve the sorrow.
Amen.